Hello, my name is Storm Hughes. I am from Boxhead Games, and this is Really Good Battle, a 4-player brawler for the PC. Currently in development. I've been working on this project for 5 months now, and it has been a crazy journey, and I've finally kind of decided to sit down and do a commentary over some testing footage I've recorded with some coworkers of mine at a co-working space. I'm very thankful for them to playtest my game, and I'm kind of excited to show it off. It's currently available on itch.io under Boxhead Games. If you search up Really Good Battle, all one word, capital R, G, and B, you'll find it, and you're free to play. Though the build that is available is outdated out of the video. A lot of changes have been made. This testing session is actually a major test on the new system I've added, which basically changes the focus of combat, making it more localized in certain locations around the map. Oh, now we've got gameplay. So it is a 4-player brawler, and as you've noticed within the first few seconds, I apologize. Within the first few seconds, it's not like most 4-player brawlers. It is a platform brawler, but you can run on the entirety of the screen. Every surface is a runnable surface. And what that actually does is it changes gravity, so depending on your orientation. So if you're standing on the ceiling and you fall off a bottom platform, you fall upwards. It takes a good 20 seconds to kind of attune your brain to. I found through demoing and showing off at conventions, the average round for 2 to 4 players is around 20 to 40 seconds, and that's all it takes for the player to get used to the mechanic. Other than that, it's a very simple minimalist game. You have a joystick, a jump button, and a punch button, and you run around and you jump, and then you punch, and then they die in one hit. And every kill is a point, and you set the points to win after you push start. So it's really kind of an open-ended couch party game. I'm a huge fan of player-made game modes and just messing around with your friends, and not like a strict game. So there isn't like a menu setting where you can fiddle with all the game's settings, because there's not many. There's how many score, what's the score, and that's it. You'll also notice this circle. This playtest session is focused solely around that circle. Before I added that feature, and I'll get into it in a minute, it was simply kill people on the screen. They spawn, and you kill them, and you get points. And it was fun. I had a lot of fun testing, but I found there was a very big issue with the neutral game. And the number one thing with this game is that I wanted to make sure it was fun for everyone, and not in a family-friendly PC way. I mean more of a, at a convention, someone's mother could walk by and not feel intimidated to play. However, depending on the amount of players, it does get a little intimidating, because you just see people running around. But when you break it down, it's very simple, and I've had a lot of luck showing off to non-gamers. But the number one thing is that everybody is equal. There are no real characters. There are 3 playable sprites, but they're just visuals. Everybody is the same, uses the same state machine, essentially, with all the same frame data. So everyone is equal. But the problem with that, if you know anything about fighting games, is that also means that everyone has the same neutral game, which is very difficult and tricky to work with. Especially if you know the nature of fighting games and how that really works. I found there were a lot of lulls in the game when one person was chasing another, due to the focus of combat in this game is more about timing than reactions. It's all about timing your punches and knowing how far you'll move through them. And if you notice, it may be hard to translate through pure video, but each punch works as a little Castlevania whip. It has a built-in input lag and delay, and the demo build currently has visible hitboxes, so for testing, and you can see the hitboxes are not on the entirety of the arm, it's only on the fist area, so it's all about aiming and timing your punches. And the issue is when two people are chasing each other, I found that everyone's locked in this weird neutral where if the person being chased decides to turn around and punch, they will be killed because that is at disadvantage. You're losing frames and time, and they will punch you before you can do anything. And because both players move at the same speed, the person chasing will basically never catch up to you, or catch up to the person he's chasing or she's chasing. The person chasing will never catch up ever, and so their only option is to try to use the cool movement to jump around and try to navigate and cut them off. But in a 2v2, you can just see them move around, and then the chase is broken. So I found that large lulls were being had in the game, and I was having a lot of conversations with a lot of different developers about ways to fix that. And to give them credit, a lot of them saw that being an issue very early on in the prototype, and I kind of elected to ignore the severity of it because I assumed people would want to kill each other, and they do. But the issue is that it then breaks out when there is only two people, or when there is no, when the energy of the match starting kind of fades away. You're both kind of like, well, I'm gonna run at you and punch, and then we'll see what happens. There's less of a reason to go to anywhere except for where people are. When there's multiple people, when there's up to 4 players, it's you feel under a constant pressure of danger because there could be anywhere. As you see, as the game kind of goes on, the more you die, the more death that happens, the more color fills the screen. So it's kind of harder to see people. That's a design choice, by the way. It's not bad user interface. However, some of the sprites need to be touched up a bit. But yeah, it's with multiple players. I apologize for that burp. I burp excessively. When it comes down to gameplay, with multiple people, it's you're moving and punching because you're wanting to win. You're having fun with your friends. There's no online for this. I don't plan to be any. It's all about enjoying, that verbal confrontation with your friends on the couch, or wherever you are. So with 4 people, there's the game. It's kind of carries itself. But with 2 people and sometimes 3, there grows these large lulls due to the fact that the neutral game is exactly neutral no matter what. It only boils down to player decision, and that's not necessarily the best thing to happen all the time. So I implemented the point and the laser, the laser pointer system, where it's still not balanced or nowhere near being done, especially all the new particles are nowhere near polished. This is a very rudimentary and unoptimized build. However, the game is close to being done. It's just this feature is very new and unoptimized. But basically, upon creation of the room, a tile is selected, an object is spawned randomly, and then the object moves to a tile, collides with it, and creates the point. The point then needs to be stood at by one person for 180 frames. Is that 3 seconds? Someone needs to stand on it, and only one person needs to stand on it. And at the end of that time, that person will be allotted a power-up, which is a laser. Again, the laser indicator isn't polished. A lot of these things are very fundamental. Once it's in and the proper frame count is given, I can test it. It's been a longer journey adding this feature than I had hoped, but I believe it works well. And all that laser does is it's a laser. If you've been seeing gameplay, it's not being acquired as often as I'd like. However, when it does change things up a little bit, but not too much to the point where it changes the focus of the game. All the laser does is it's a telegraphed attack a bit more. It kind of slows the entirety of the game down to about 10 frames, I believe, or maybe 15 per second, and it leaves a leading line, and that indicates to anybody that, hey, there's a laser, it's going to hit you. You should probably begin your jumping to dodge this, and then it shoots a big laser. The laser collides through terrain and just blows anything in its path. It doesn't do any extra damage. because no one has health. You just die on collision with these death objects. So you just shoot a laser and kill people, and that gives you a lot in a game that's all about melee combat and punching. Having range the entirety of a screen is very important if you're really good. If you're not that good at the game and you're still doing what purple is doing every now and then, if you notice, that's one of the newer players, not newer players, but doesn't play as often with me. You kind of punching because that's the button you have to do, and it's probably a safer option for newer players, just to keep having hitboxes in front of you and make you look dangerous. So he would get it 2 or 3 times and just kind of waste it immediately. Oh, now I'm looking towards the end of my footage already. I'll have to rewind back to the beginning. But it does change up the gameplay a lot. But what this does more, other than just give you a power-up, which allows you to basically get people who are running away from you or get kills from farther away, is it brings all of the players together into a central area and then makes them fight more. As you see here on this spawn, it didn't spawn this round. Every time it spawns, there's a chance for it to not spawn on the map. That's intentional, I hope. I did program it in so that there's a chance it does not spawn on the map, but at the same time, it also may not be spawning properly. However, it does so it doesn't completely remove that null. Like, this map will have that issue with the neutral game, but it's a good breath of fresh air compared to typical gameplay. I'm going to now go back to the very start of the session and just kind of let it roll. You'll see some map setup issues and things like that. So yeah, the laser it isn't like a fundamental change of the game, but it does help focus combat to a central area and really speed up play time. Not necessarily per round, but overall sessions. Because after the first 5 or 6 sessions, it's so packed. Here you'll see, even with the point, it does get a little tiring after 10 minutes of playing. After 10 minutes of playing, you've probably played 20 to 30 rounds of RGB, and you get a little drained when it's just 1v1s, right? Or when it's just the same people versus the same people. That's why I like to have the laser, which switches it up, because it definitely extends the length until, someone gets... Till the lull happens. The circle is the hot cancel key that gets us out of the game. But I would find that after around 3 or 4 matches without the lasers, we would get in these long lulls where either a conversation would be happening and someone's chasing someone and no one's doing anything. It never seemed to actually bother players, but it bothered me that there was just this unspoken lull that no one talked about, which may have been a good breath of fresh air for players, but I find that I need to find a better way to go about spacing and pacing out gameplay than having large gaps in my neutral game. If that makes any sense, it's not a good idea to have a weak neutral game when the entirety of the game is indeed neutral game. Then, ooh, that was a close laser. Yeah, we're both playing similar colors. I would tell you which one I am, but I forget, so I apologize. What was I going to say? Yeah, so I'm electing to have finding a better way to actually space out the neutral. Then let's space out the neutral, space out gameplay, and increase and have better pacing than having poor neutral game. Other than that, RGB does have a feature which maybe you've seen a little bit. It's a little broken. Ever since I added lasers, it's been a tad broken, unfortunately. But the main pull of the game was that there isn't like a bunch of preset colors you select or characters with set skins. All of it is done through image blending and, data managing. You get to pick your RGB value of your character, and then that's the appeal, is that you get to be any color on the RGB spectrum that you'd want. A lot of people have argued with me that feature, and I may soon remove that the picking process and add it somewhere else, because some people, it definitely is neat for the first 5 minutes, and then kind of gets a little old when you just want to be a shade of blue and not your favorite shade of blue like I intended. So I might just keep the random in, but yeah, any character can possibly be any color, including black or in white, meaning the background is black and so is some of the terrain, and you can be black and you can be invisible. You can be like actually straight up invisible. It's a lot of fun, especially when I don't tell the people I'm demoing to, and the 14-year-old immediately just realizes they can be the same color as the background, and then just starts just invisibly punching people. But I don't know if anybody can tell, I've added a lot of fail-safes to kind of fix that from being a big problem. As you see, every time you jump and land, I have white particle effects that like spawn, especially on 2 different jumps. Like Smash or other brawler types, I have short hops and full hops. And if you short hop, a tiny puff smoke shows up, and if you full hop, a more explosive vertical I guess smoke pops up, as well as I am probably going to add running dust as well pretty soon, as well as there is a trail of white particles that stream after you, which isn't just only to help indicate to players that, hey, the person who's playing 000 RGB is moving in this direction, but it also helps direct jumping in a game where any direction is viable for gravity. Not any direction, one of the 4 major directions is viable for running and gravity. It's also important to kind of paint some kind of arrow so that anybody can glance at the screen and kind of see who's going where. So that's why a lot of the effects you see trail in some way. You'll see that there's the aerial trail effect, and that there, whenever you get the laser, there is a very rudimentary like power up where here's one of those lulls, but this is a player made lull where they're kind of having a standoff and deciding who's going to go where, and I don't mind that at all. That something's happening there, you're thinking. In the other neutral game, it was a lose-lose situation, and you just kind of waited it out, unfortunately. And so, like you see here, there are these lines that are the same color that pop up. That's your combo lines. Every time you get a kill, the amount that spawn divides by a bunch, and so it gets to the point where if you have enough score, you could essentially get more. You can get 1 every frame of the game, probably more. If my math works right, if it goes higher, it should spawn more per frame. I apologize for burping again. I'm a burpy person. A lot of things trail. The rudimentary particle, when you get a laser, a bunch of things kind of fly towards you. As you can see that I'm stuck. Actually, that's testing, everybody. Please do QA. Yeah, so you see I've got these lasers that come in, and so when I stand still, it looks like there's some bunch of noise. Yeah, I try to kill you when it's going to come save me. It does trail after me. Which kind of helps point an arrow. And also, for anybody doing any dev testing of any game, screenshots of your game should really indicate to anybody of any skill level passing by on Twitter or looking for screenshots of cool games what's happening and who's going where. And I understand it's very difficult to convey motion in a single frame of your game, but if you're doing so, your game will be way better off for it. I mean, just way better off for it. It's important to pay attention to details like that. There's another detail I recommend paying attention to, which I'm going to be coming around to in a little bit. This is just minor dev talk. I love video games, by the way. I just talk too much about them. This is the other tip is that the game should never be still without player input. I mean, there's the obvious idle animations, but the game should be doing something else to be visually appealing without you touching it. I am struggling with that right now. The only issue there is though, the game starts out blank, with a black screen, a bunch of white lines, and 2 dudes, or 3 or 4 dudes. But then as the battle kind of goes on, and depending on the score, it can look very messy. Sometimes it can be Pollock-esque if people pick the right colors that clash properly and just fight everywhere. Sometimes it can be a colorful collage of just pretty pastel colors, and sometimes it can just be a fucking mess. And that's just the nature of the beast. I can't really balance that. Although, I mean, there are definitely readability issues in certain spots. I'm going to be looking at with more of particle effects, some not being white, some possibly being black, to help give you black outlines when you go over certain colors. Things I can do to help basically indicate who is where later. But yeah, that's basically what this game is so far. It's just some combat code and a bunch of effects over that. Yeah, I made this game. It started out as a game. It started out as a tech demo before Global Game Jam 2017. So I guess it's only been it's been 5 months. And then I went to Global Game Jam and wanted to expand upon it more, and so I did that. But that said, it started out as like an arcade shooter, like Galaga, right? Like the shooter Galaga. But what if you could, like, when you move left or right, you moved up the walls too? It started out as that, and then it became a more a platform shooter where you have a gun and you shoot things floating in the sky, and you run around the surface of this arena's room, and you shoot things spawning. You shoot obelisks that spawn bats. It was very inspired by the idea of Double Daggers without me ever actually having played Double Daggers. And then after the game jam, I wanted to keep going, and I kept going. I just kept adding things and touching stuff up and making new guns and new types of ammo. The idea of that game, though, is that you reloaded by jumping, and so that was the mechanic, was that, like, I made you bumper jumper around and, like, run and jump. One gun only worked in the air, and then it only worked. It was a very messy system, and the game never really took form until I realized that I wanted to make games to have fun with people, especially strangers I didn't know at conventions, so I decided to make the ultimate convention game. That was a double kill. They're possible. Also, the end game freeze frames and zoom-ins with the whole thing will definitely be reworked to fit everybody on screen, even if you're not in the final kill. It's probably very Samurai Gun, but no offense to Samurai Gun, less annoying. I found that if it happened in mid-match, it was just like, it just bothered me when I played. It's a super cool effect, that's why I'm acquiring it, but it's just, I prefer it to happen at the end to be very symbolic of the final hit, not a cool hit randomly. Oh, not randomly, I'm pretty sure it was for a combo ender, but still. Sorry, it's my stomach, I think. I lost track of what I was saying. Oh, so yeah, talking about overall development of this game. Yeah, so the game didn't take shape because I didn't know what I wanted to do, and then I realized I wanted to, have fun with people. That's why I make games. I think this is where I have to stop talking now because I've exhausted all my footage. Let me take a peek. Yeah, we're there. So let me wrap it up. So yeah, and then I wanted to have fun with strangers and give people fun. And after